Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington today for high-stakes talks with President Donald Trump. Reports suggest Iran's nuclear program is at the top of his agenda. Well, the meeting, marking Netanyahu's seventh encounter with Trump during his second term, comes at a critical moment, as Tehran signals that it might dilute its enriched uranium if sanctions are lifted. On Tuesday, Netanyahu also held talks in Washington with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. The three discussed key regional developments and reviewed the outcome of the indirect talks held with Iran in Oman last Friday. But when it comes to Iran, Israel is pressing for a much broader agreement. Israel believes that a limited deal focused only on nuclear issues would leave major security threats unaddressed in the region. Therefore, Netanyahu is expected to urge Trump to expand the scope of the talks. He wants the US to discuss Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for armed groups across West Asia, including Hamas and Hezbollah.
On this trip, we will discuss a number of issues: Gaza, the region, but of course, first and foremost, the negotiations with Iran. I will present to the president our ideas about the principles in the negotiations, the important principles, and in my opinion, they are important not only for Israel, but for everyone in the world who wants peace and security in the Middle East.
Well, a diplomatic push comes against the backdrop of a significant U.S. military buildup in West Asia. Last month, President Trump ordered the deployment of major American military assets after Iran's deadly crackdown on mass protests, which left thousands dead and tens of thousands detained. Well, now concerns over Iran's nuclear ambitions remain high. President Trump, in an interview on Tuesday, claimed his predecessors had failed and that only he can strike a deal with Iran.
It's got to be a good deal. No nuclear weapons, no missiles, no this, no that, all the different things that you want. But some people worry that they've been very dishonest with us over the years, right? Very dishonest. Obama and Biden, what they did in terms of creating a monster with Iran was terrible. That Iran nuclear deal was one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen.
The Western alliance has long accused Iran of pursuing nuclear weapons, a claim Tehran strongly denies. Iran maintains its nuclear program is purely peaceful and insists it has the right to enrich uranium for civilian purposes. In fact, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that Tehran is prepared to accept any verification to demonstrate that its nuclear program is peaceful. The Iranian leader made the remarks while speaking at a rally in Tehran to mark the 47th anniversary of Iran's Islamic Revolution.
Our country, Iran, will not yield to their excessive demands. Iran will not give in to injustice or aggression. But with all our capacity and in pursuit of peace and stability in the region, we are engaged in dialogue with our neighboring countries. The problems of the region can be solved by those who live in the region.
Well, last week, Iranian and American officials held indirect talks in Oman. Both sides said further meetings are expected soon. However, reports say Iran made it clear it will not give up its right to enrich uranium, a core demand from Tehran that has long blocked progress. International reaction to the renewed diplomatic push has been cautious but hopeful. The United Nations says it's looking for a reduction in regional tensions as the talks continue.
Our focus is on seeing the tensions in the region lower, and we hope that the discussions between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran will lead to exactly that.
Reactions have also emerged from Australia, where Israeli President Isaac Herzog, on a visit there, said he hopes the talks between Netanyahu and Trump will help counter what he described as Iran's empire of evil. Netanyahu's White House visit also carries major political significance back home. Israel is heading towards elections later this year, with the Prime Minister seeking to project strong leadership and his close ties with Trump as he battles his own domestic difficulties. All this is unfolding at a time when West Asia is undergoing a major churn and with power dynamics shifting and the regional balance being redefined. Iran's future now stands at a dangerous crossroads. Well, for more on this, we're joined now by the former director of Israeli National Security Council, Halit Barel from Tel Aviv. Welcome to the program. Let me ask you first, if I may. Whatever Benjamin Netanyahu says to the president, how likely is it that Donald Trump will just do whatever the prime minister wants?
I don't think it's particularly likely that Donald Trump will do anything anybody wants. I think it's been established that Donald Trump likes to make ultimately his own decisions. So I don't think that is the dynamic that is about to happen. I think it is the effort of the Prime Minister of Israel to convey very strongly Israeli concerns and really Middle Eastern concerns about various aspects of Iranian policy and behavior, as you very thoroughly mentioned, the nuclear, the ballistic, and obviously the proxy issue, and to put down what Israeli perspective is about the parameters that would be acceptable for a deal. But once again, these are discussions between close allies. Ultimately, the United States is going to decide, and specifically Donald Trump, whether they head towards military action or they head to a diplomatic solution. But of course, a lot also hangs in the hands of the Islamic regime of Iran in terms of how much they're actually willing to compromise on what in the past seemed to be a pretty intransigent position.
Let me pick up on what you said there, actually. If talks do break down and America does attack Iran militarily, do you think America would also put boots on the ground, as it were?
Of course, the preference of the President of the United States of America and of a lot of people who are surrounding him is not to do so and to really utilize American military advantage in other ways. And so I think initially, certainly, that would not necessarily be a first preference. It could happen in very specific direct operations, but not in a big invasion as we saw in Iran or, I'm sorry, in Iraq or in Afghanistan. However, we have to keep in mind, if we're talking about a war and an escalation and Iranian responses against, for example, American aircraft carriers and other American assets in the area, then war has its own dynamic, and it could certainly happen. We certainly see that the United States forces are prepared for that. Will they choose that route? I doubt it.
Donald Trump is very much a transactional president, as it were. So what would Israel be able to offer Trump to agree to Netanyahu's demands?
Well, I think it's more of a discussion at this point between allies. I think if Donald Trump is headed towards an agreement, certainly the parameters on the nuclear level need to be known and asserted. And I don't think they're really that different than the US parameters. So over there, I think there's not a big difference of opinion between the United States and Israel and what needs to be achieved. And also Donald Trump kept saying, he's the one who can bring a good deal, one that is substantially different than the one that Obama produced. So we'll have to wait and see how that manifests, meaning it has to go farther more than the JCPOA of 2015, and that will be quite a tall task. We'll see what can be achieved. I think on the ballistic issue, if the United States does not really include that in the deal, meaning there's not any addressing of issues such as the range of missile, the types of missiles, numbers of missiles that Iran is holding, producing, deploying, then I would assume that the Prime Minister of Israel would implore the American president to understand that if that is not included in the deal, Israel's continue to be exposed to a significant strategic threat, as we saw in the 12-day war, and that Israel therefore must be allowed to maintain operational freedom of action to address this issue on its own. Because just leaving this strategic threat as it is after the experience of the 12-day war is really not an option.
Okay, we'll leave it there, Halit Barel. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders. 5 moments. One pattern. The assassination.